Tom Perez, I'm getting to know you. I look forward to working and learning from you. I appreciate that you're on the team. You've always been on the team, but I appreciate now that you have an office I can go visit and engage with, and I look forward to that. Congratulations to you. Let's give Tom another round of applause. You know, we have a lot in common. However, one of the biggest differences is that as a Boricua, my guido is a vegetable. His guido is made of metal. And I want to thank Linda for that beautiful introduction. As you mentioned, at this time last year, you were spearheading our Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. And because of your work, we were able to step up how we engaged with the Latino community, so many different places in so many different ways. So thank you for your commitment to the Department of Education and this administration. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to everything you've skillfully led at the department. Thanks for everything you've contributed, and I know WINS is very lucky to have you. And I also want to give a shout out to the Department of Education team that's here. Please stand if you're from the Department of Education or the White House Initiative. Their commitment to our mission is just as great as mine, and I want to acknowledge them and thank them for what they've done. And thank you to Mickey Ibarra for all you do for the Latino Leaders Network. It really, you know, I meet people in this position that will undoubtedly have an impact on the rest of my life. And Mickey, you're one of those. Y tiene una voz de locutor. I could listen to him all day. I love it. I love it. ¿No que sí? Talking about dance partners. Tom was talking about dance partners. I don't want to go any further without introducing you to my dance partner, Marissa. I couldn't do what I do, couldn't be who I am, couldn't have the beautiful family I have if it weren't for the dedication and commitment of Marissa and her, the sacrifices, the commitment, especially these last 2.5 years. Home is where my children are and my wife in Connecticut, and I have a place in DC, and for the last 2.5 years, she stood by me and supported me and said, whatever you need. You're just as much of part of my success as I am, so thank you. So this award is ours, baby. You can carry it on the train back if you want. Quiero empezar with a story that I think captures what mi identidad latina means to me. It's a story about when President Biden called me to offer me the job of Secretary of Education. At the time, I was the Commissioner of Education in Connecticut and was working from my basement trying to reopen schools. You remember that time, right? That's when we wore like half suits, right? No pantalones, right? Because the Zoom couldn't catch it. So we had shorts with suits. I had a chaqueta and a tie. That's all that mattered. I wasn't alone, though, because at the height of the pandemic, as many of you remember, many of us worked from home. My wife was home, and my children, teenagers, were upstairs doing hybrid learning, right? They would go to school some days and then stay home some days. My son at the time was 16 years old, and my daughter was 14. And I remember interviewing for the position with the then president-elect, Joe Biden, with Dr. Biden in the room and with Ron Klain in the room. And I'm sitting in my basement trying to work on the lighting for this interview. And I remember I had this interview, I think it was maybe like 6 o'clock p.m., and then I had another interview at 7 p.m. with Madam Vice President. And it was just her on that call. And then when I interviewed with the president and Dr. B and Ron Klain, and they were interviewing me, he told me, he said at the end of the interview, he said, I'll give you a call tomorrow to let you know either way, because I have more interviews to do. Okay. But no, really, for me it was like, look, I was just honored to have an opportunity to interview with President Biden, Vice President Harris. And, I was doing that thing that we all do sometimes on the phone, just taking screenshots without letting anyone know. I had proof. I had receipts. I did interview with him, I promise. So he told me he's going to call me the next day at 11 o'clock. And the next day at 11 o'clock, I get the call. And if anyone knows our great president, he called at 11 o'clock. It was on time. And I was like, wow, this is the real deal. So I ran upstairs with the phone in hand because I knew my family was in the kitchen and they knew what was going down. When one of us struggles, we all struggle. When one of us succeeds, we all succeed. So that call was going to be taken with my family. I put the phone on speaker. I had my arms stretched out. I didn't have this suit on, but I had another one on. I had my arms stretched out, and I had my wife in my left hand, and I had my kids in my right hand. And the phone was on speaker. I said, lo que Dios diga. Lo que Dios diga. He talked for a while about what his vision is for our country. And then at the end of the call, he said, I would love for you to join our cabinet. Y yo empecé a llorar como un bobo. Trying to keep it together like I am now, because we as a family accepted that honor. We accepted this privilege of serving at the highest level in education. And it hit me that I'm accepting this on behalf of those who gave up so much so that I could have this opportunity. The weight that I carried there to say, my gosh, I get to be the one to represent the struggles of those that came before me and serve as Secretary of Education. Here's the thing that stood out to me, though. The president had faith in me because of who I am, not in spite of it. It wasn't that being Latino or a Spanish speaker or a first-generation college student from an economically disadvantaged community were deficits I overcame to qualify for this role. These things were assets, superpowers that gave me a unique perspective on the way education can open doors if we do right by our students. My experience being bilingual and bicultural reflected the students' and educators' voices that we needed in Washington, D.C. Now, when I walk into the White House to advise the president on education, it's those same superpowers that give me the confidence to do so. So to all our amazing Latino leaders here today, your bilingualism and your biculturalism are your superpowers. Don't ever let anyone tell you or make you feel otherwise. Wear your mancha de plátano with pride. I know with all the accomplishments in this room, you already know that. But for too many Latinos like us, we grow up with the oppressive weight of the ay bendito effect. You know the ay bendito effect, right? Instead of being held to high expectations, We're pitied. Ay, pobrecito. As long as they just behave, que se quedan quietos, they'll be okay. We'll pass them. Instead of getting the supports we need to be successful, we're given understaffed, under-resourced programs and told to work with what we got. Ay, bendito. None of us would have gotten where we are today if we let those low expectations define us. We knew that we had giants that came before us that sacrificed way too much for us to settle for low expectations. We defied those expectations. We set high goals for ourselves, and we let the sacrifices of our families past fuel our drive to succeed into the future for ourselves, but also for the generations to come. And so as Secretary of Education, it is my mission to raise the bar for all students across the country. It's my goal to ensure that my experience is the rule, not the exception. I'm tired of us being looked at as counterexamples. To send a very clear message to every Latino, every student growing up in poverty, you can be whatever you want to be. Even if you're the grandson of a sugarcane farmer that left school at age 7 to start working in the fields. That sometimes it's because of that adversity and perseverance that you are the best candidate, not in spite of it. Yo siempre digo, I'm as American as apple pie and rice and beans. Mi experiencia y cultura is the American dream. I am living the American dream. And it's because of my family, both the family that my wife Marissa and I built, but also the generations before us. I'm here because my grandparents took a chance trading the paradise of Puerto Rico for the projects of Connecticut so that the next generations can rise. Because my father sacrificed for his 3 kids, doing whatever he needed to do to get us into the middle class, and dedicating a 31-year career to the local police department as a police officer. Because my mother saw potential I never saw in myself. Even after I went home crying on my first day of kindergarten because I didn't want to go back. I was scared of the big kids. There was too much going on. I vowed that day when she picked me up from the nurse's office before lunch. I vowed I'm never going to go back to school. She must have given me a good pep talk because I haven't stopped since. Look, we are a culmination of those who came before us. Their sacrifices have lifted us. They've given us a confidence that we can succeed. And, you know, that was most evident in an experience that I had when I was in middle school. You see, up until 7th grade, I did end up going back in kindergarten. I went back. So then I made it to 7th grade, right? But when I'm in 7th grade, up until 7th grade, in school, I was called Michael. All throughout elementary school, middle school, I was Michael. But at home, I was Miguel. And I never really understood that. 7th grade, I went up to my mom and said, "Mom, what does it say on my birth certificate? Like, is it Michael? Is it Miguel?" She said, "No, it's Miguel." So I came up with a plan. True story. The next day, I went into the office in that middle school to tell the clerical staff to change my name back to Miguel on all of the paperwork. Yeah, I might have dropped the maldita sea. I might have dropped 1 or 2 of those. But look, my parents modeled being unapologetically you. It's the same pride in my cultura that had me playing Andrés Jiménez, Felipe Rodríguez, Los Condes, Eddie Santiago, and of course, Mark Anthony, on my playlist in the Department of Education. And I'll be very honest with you, to get hyped up for hearings on the Hill, I usually have salsa playing and I'm like getting myself ready because that's what I came up with. You know, going into the Capitol, listening to Los Condes or Trio Los Panchos, that's what motivates me because that's how I was raised. And I learned you don't change your stripes when you get different positions. You stay true to who you are. I learned early on to code switch and culture switch, a skill that I still rely on every day in my life and in my career. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that's a superpower. You all do the same, that culture switch, code switch. You know how to work the room. You know how to, right? You know what I'm talking about. The evidence is clear. Multilingualism and multiculturalism prepares us for success in careers, in relationships, and in life. But right now, only 20% of Americans can speak 2 or more languages. When you couple that with the pace of demand for multilingual employees, we have a mismatch, and one that we're fighting to fix at the Department of Education. And as part of our Raise the Bar strategy, we have a strategy to make America multilingual. We're investing in high-quality education for English learners while at the same time increasing access to dual language programs. As part of that effort, we're working to increase pathways for bilingual and multilingual educators so that students from every background and circumstance can see what they can be. In my career and in my life, I respect others' experiences while never, ever devaluing my own. And that last part is important. Because growing up, there were many times when I was the only Latino student in the classroom. My perspectives were no less important, no less valid. These moments were as challenging as they were transformative. They helped me build my confidence in my own identity, yes, but they also opened my eyes to the need for more Latino representation, especially in positions of leadership. Today, only 4% of executive level positions are held by Hispanics, yet we make up approximately 27% of the students in school. And we make up 25% of our country's population. We're underrepresented as teachers, principals, superintendents. That's unacceptable. We need more leaders like all of you to show our kids what they can be. Because of our perspectives, nuestras experiencias, and our example, we matter. We make America stronger. So it's an honor to be here with all of you today, to honor the sacrifices of those who came before us, and to celebrate a future that we're building together. We will thrive together. From the barrio to the briefing room, we will thrive together. I want to thank you for this award. Y seguimos para adelante, siempre. Que Dios me lo bendiga.
Mr. Secretary, on behalf of the Latino Leaders Network, we present you with our Eagle Leadership Award for your outstanding contribution to our nation. Come right over here.